call to order the Wednesday, September 19, 2018 meeting of the Airport Advisory Board. We begin the meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Crystal, will you conduct a roll call, please?
Mr. Shannon Stebbins?
Here.
Mr. Lewis Worthy?
Here.
Mr. Dave McNary?
Here.
Mr. Brian Schultz?
Present.
Mr. Mark Zeef?
Here.
Ms. Shannon Hicks?
Here.
Mr. Ed Weber?
Here.
Mr. Bill Boyer?
Here.
We have a quorum present. I'd like to thank all the members of the audience for coming out this afternoon and supporting the airport. We appreciate it. I'd also like to take a moment to introduce two new members of the Airport Advisory Board, Mr. Mark Zeef to my right, Mr. Ed Weber, who you probably know from being around the airport, to my left. The first item of business is a call to the public. I'm going to read this paragraph. We will now have an open call to the public for citizens wishing to address the board on issues within the jurisdiction of the board. Your comments must be limited to 5 minutes or less. If you wish to address an item already on today's agenda, you should wait until that item is announced for a public hearing. At the conclusion of the open call to the public, individual members of the board may respond to criticisms made by those who address the board, may ask staff to review a matter, or may ask that a matter be placed on future agenda. However, board members cannot discuss or take legal action on matters not already on the agenda. So having said that, we have an open call to the public. Would anybody like to speak to the board? Mr. Stokely.
Thank you very much. Tom Stokely. I rent hangar number 74, the north hangars. There's 6 hangars up there, number 74 through 79. And we understand there's an RFP, or RPF, is that it? RFP, thank you. For the dirt across from us, our hangars, and then to the other side, to the where all the tie downs are. Initially, well, let's put it this way. I'm for growth of our airport, whatever needs to be done, but I am concerned about our taxiway. The company that is interested in leasing that property builds big hangars. They put multiple airplanes in them. And we see these airplanes from looking from our hangars to the north. They'll pull out 7 or 8, you know, they'll get the one they want out. They'll leave all these planes out all day regularly. And so what I'm requesting is that through the design process, if this goes beyond, that we take into consideration that our taxiway is not tied up with multiple airplanes all over it. Okay, and if anybody of you have gone up to Havasu Air Center, you've seen it. They've got airplanes in their area, which is fine, but now it kind of becomes an area that we need to access. So I'd like to make sure that during the design process that this is addressed and that we are able to access our taxiways at any time. All right, and Steve, good luck in your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stokely. Anybody else like to address the board? Seeing none, we'll continue on with the agenda. The first item is the approval of the August 15th, 2018 meeting minutes. Those should have been sent to you via email. I would entertain a motion to accept those minutes or discussion.
Motion to approve.
Second. Is there a second?
Second.
Any opposed? Signify by saying nay. Unanimously approved. Item 6.1 is the airport supervisor's report, so I'll turn it over to Steve Johnson for that.
It'll be relatively short tonight. Electrical vault construction is complete. We've just done a change order for a new radio receiver, one that's less than 26 years old. We tested the lights. Everything out there is great. So that warranty work's been done. The project will be closed this week and a letter sent to the FAA. Taxiway connectors for runway 1432 have been painted. The rejuvenation product has been put on. That's complete. The Hangar 24 Airfest will be October 27th, which I believe is a Saturday. There'll be another detail meeting between staff and the folks at Hangar 24 sometime this month. D2 hangar development's moving along. They're putting the skin on the hangars as we speak and putting the sprinklers in. So that's moving along quickly. City hangars inspections continue. The operation department has installed new airport locator signs, which approximately mirror the signs you've seen all through the community. They are very visible at night since I've been out the airport a number of times the last couple of weeks with the lights. And they look very good. The initial airport master plan meeting has taken place between staff and consultants. A list of citizens and other interested parties are being contacted, and that's being drawn up. These folks will be contacted by Kaufman Associates, and the goal right now is to hold the first master plan meeting probably in late October. So it'll be coming up here in about a month or so. Draft policy regarding taxiway closures that was addressed by this group at our last regular meeting in August. That's been forwarded to the city for review and fine-tuning. FAA CIP list has been submitted to ADOT, and that was the end of last month, so we made that timeline. The next FAA ADOT grant project is a design for the rebuild of Taxiway Alpha. The approximate cost that we know of right now is about $225,000. The CADEX, categorical exemption environmental review for that is underway. Both our planning and engineering consultants are working that through. The sense I get is if we don't have it this week, we'll have it next. The due date for that to FAA Environmental is October 1st. So right now everything looks good on that. The 2020 FAA ADOT grant construction project that we have on the ACIP right now is a reconstruction, damn it, of Alpha Taxiway. The current estimate for that is $5,875,000. And again, the premise here is we're going to get 95% from the FAA and ADOT to cover this. Draft RFP for the hangars at the North Ramp, that has been done. It's forward to the city for review and action. We're waiting for comments back in regards to that. A revised land appraisal based on if indeed that some of that tie-down area is added in will need to occur. And I've talked preliminarily with the appraiser, so there's no issue there. We'll need to get a survey as well. That being said, again, what I've advised the city is until we have an appraisal and until that survey's been done to where we have an exact acreage, we don't publish the RFP. Those two things have to be done so whoever's competing on the RFP understands the basics there. And you'll see a report, I believe, at the next airport board meeting. I apologize because I missed this, but there's a report on the Unicom radio that we'll be bringing back to you. And hopefully by the time we bring it back to you, we will have purchased that recorder for that radio. We're working on that as we speak. Local airport maintenance future projects this year, crack sealing for Taxiway Alpha, the remaining piece that wasn't done, painting the edge and possibly center lines for Taxiway Alpha. You've seen one side that was done. We're going to do the other side in the center lines after we've done the crack sealing. And then repainting some of the tie-down markings on the central ramp and some of the center line markings down into the central ramp. The annual city cost of services process is underway. Airport staff has surveyed other airports in regards to fees. That's been passed along to the finance department for their review and input. The fence damaged by the F-16 crash in April has been repaired, and the repairs were all funded by the U.S. Air Force at no cost to us. And actually, we used that to move a gate and make it a little easier to get on that part of the airport from the outside, Alpha Highway 95. Tuesday, September 4th, home-built aircraft impacted and severed one of the high-voltage power lines to the southeast of the airport. Fortunately, the aircraft was successfully landed on runway 32, and there were no injuries to the pilot. Airport fire crews quickly and successfully responded out there, and I believe WAPA has repaired those power lines. And then I think, as you probably all know by the newspaper and other venues, my last day of city service will be the 26th, which is next Wednesday. I've accepted the position of airport manager at the Kingman Airport, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the present and past airport board members here at Lake Havasu City for your service, your input, your cooperation in the development, enhancement, I wasn't going to get messed up on this, enhancement and success of the airport in the community. As you all know, this airport is one of the jewels of this area and contributes to the growth and success of the community. And you all, both past and present, have been a huge piece of that. And I thank you for the 11-year opportunity to be a part of this successful enterprise. Any questions?
Any questions for any board members? We thank you for your 10-plus years of service as well. Next item is a public hearing. It's discussion and possible action of the airport pre-accident plan. This was presented last month, and we discussed it, and I think everyone liked it. However, we didn't have it on the agenda as the ability to take action. So this agenda item is to whether or not we want to have staff submit this to the city for approval and inclusion in their overall accident plan for the city. Is there anybody that has discussion on that plan? I would entertain a motion to refer the airport pre-accident plan draft to the city for inclusion in their emergency response plan.
I'll motion for the draft to be approved by the city.
Is there a second? Any opposed signify by saying nay. Unanimously approved. The next item is the rate determination study of city hangars. This was discussed again last month. I know that Brian Schultz brought this up, and that the city staff has done another survey, and it's the same figures that we had from last year prevail. Deer Valley and comparables are 22 cents a square foot. We're 28 cents a square foot on hangar space. The staff has submitted this information to finance along with a request not to increase the rates of the city-owned hangars or tie-down spaces. Along with that, we did, since I know that there are people in the audience that own private hangars, the square foot for private hangars is substantially lower than that, and is below probably below the fair market value based on the grandfathering of those hangars in. So there's nothing that we can do about those rates. This is a public hearing. I'd like to open up if anybody has a comment. Seeing none, are there any questions or comments from the board members? Steve, can you just tell us where this is at as far as your knowledge?
I believe it's down in city finance. I have not heard back from anybody where the process is. I believe it will be going to the city council at some point relatively soon, but unfortunately I don't have that date in the top of my head at this point.
Mr. Clark.
Thank you. Because it's a rate process, there basically will have a introduction to the city council, typically late September, early October kind of thing. And obviously, we're in late September right now, so it'll probably be in October. And then a month, 45 days later, they will have the next council meeting and they will adopt the rates, you know, with all the changes or whatever. So you've got 2 chances to make comments. And then obviously, when we have our council representative here, you can chat with him too about those discussions.
I guess what we need is to know when it's going to happen so that the board can show up at the city council meeting and tell them what we think about it.
Yes, and we'll be happy to let you know. Right now, typically the agenda is not set until about 2 weeks in advance, and I don't think it's on the next. I know it's not on the council meeting at the end of September, so the first chance would be the one in October, and we can sure keep an eye on that and give you plenty of advance notice.
Do you have any sense of what finance's position on this is?
Yeah, I don't think they're against the recommendation from staff. This was the part of the every 3 years they try and do a detailed analysis, and was probably not the year to have a detailed analysis because they're in the middle of a software conversion for the entire city, so that's kind of occupying all their time. So we were basically tasked with providing that information, and I think they'll accept that in the spirit that it's intended as well as what the data shows.
With the looming departure of our airport manager, I would please ask you to send me an email and update me on that, and so that I can get with the board members, and if we need to appear before the city council, we can, and if we don't, there's no point in doing that.
No, we will definitely make sure that happens and keep everybody in the know.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Any other comments? I think for the benefit of those that weren't here last month, basically about all we can do as a board is to facilitate these inputs into finance, and then if finance doesn't accept the recommendations of staff, then we as the airport board can make comments in front of the city council to advise them, which is our charter. So that's kind of where we're at on this issue. Have any further discussion on this issue? We'll move on to the next item, 7.3, which is a discussion and status of hangar development RFP, which we kind of talked about a little bit. This is also a public hearing. We've already heard from Mr. Stokely on this issue. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Do you have anything else to add on the status of this?
Just a couple detail items. I think the last, and I can't remember if you all saw this or if it was within the city, but got the acreages sort of bass-ackwards. So the dirt area that's out there is definitively 3.4777 acres. It's not 2.48. It's 3.477. And then that additional area that Mr. Stokely was talking about out there in some of the old tie downs. And just as a reminder, in the past, that area ran at and this is back in 2014, was 16 cents a square foot. That's just the dirt. And again, that appraisal, which we have a copy of, was done by a firm that focuses on airports, and they're within the state, down in Tucson. So that draft RFP is off to the city for review. And once it's been reviewed, then the city will move forward in publishing it. I don't have a timeline at this point in regards to that.
Does this RFP include the dirt that's to the northwest of the existing hangars, 6 hangars that are there, and the ramp to their northeast?
The areas that I have suggested is the original dirt area, that small area that you're speaking of where a hangar wasn't built, off the north end of the city hangars that are there, and then some of the tie-down area to the east. What I have suggested is that the taxi lane, which is sort of a C, on the west side of Mr. Stokely's hangar, running up there and then capping that small dirt area and then coming back. I have suggested that remains city property because depending on the type of hangars that are built in that area, if we have aircraft with a heavier weight, like say a large King Air, we can go after grant opportunities through the federal government to basically beef up that pavement. If we put that on somebody else, then that's an extra cost that they would have to endure. So the idea is we control the taxi lane, sorry.
I share Mr. Stokely's concerns and fully understand it, because if a commercial entity clogs those taxiways up, those hangars will become useless to the hangar occupants up there. So for Mr. Clark, I have a question. Can we get a presentation made to this board on the basic tenets of this RFP prior to it being published, so that we'll provide the public process for input from airport patrons?
I'll have to check with the city attorney's office and find out whether a review in the draft process is appropriate or not, and I'll have you back.
Okay, thank you.
Obviously, what I would suggest is maybe in the next.
Can you turn your mic on?
What I would suggest is maybe in the next couple of weeks, because where it's at is the city attorney reviewed it and made sure there wasn't any problems with it, and so now we need to take it back and format it a little bit differently, get it sent over to procurement, and then also include some comments. She had found one from Washington State that had a lot of formatting that she liked, so we're going to make those incorporations. But let me check on and see what we can do with that regards. But in the meantime, if you have any specific comments, just go ahead and email them to us, and we'll try and include them as a part of the process also.
I think specifically, collectively, the occupants of those 6 hangars all share the same questions that Mr. Stokely has. I think they share the same concerns.
Right. And obviously, we don't want to create a situation where we've landlocked someone. We would not create an RFP that would not provide public access to all of those areas.
No, I'm not, and I firmly agree with that statement that we wouldn't do that. What I'm suggesting, if it's legal and meets with the city attorney's approval, that if it could be presented here at the board, it just provides that public exposure so that everybody gets a buy-in to it.
And more than likely, and I haven't run this by the city manager because obviously it's a new part of the process, but there may be incentive to get the RFP prepared and kind of ready to go, but there obviously with the transition of airport managers, there may be a reason to hold off and let that person who comes on board have some discussion points on this also. So we'll do that.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments by board members? That completes the agenda. For future agenda items, the RFP presentation by the staff tentatively, we'll see what happens with that for me. And it seems that the policy that's been drafted has been at the city quite a while. I want to put the taxiway Charlie closure on next month's agenda for a discussion and update of where it is. Any other suggestions from board members? Seeing none, our next meeting is Wednesday, October 17th, 2018. It's in this room at 5:30. If any board member has anything that you'd like added to the agenda, please email it to Crystal. You should all have her email address. She acts as our central clearinghouse for any comments back and forth. And also, when Crystal sends you an email, please be sure that you don't reply to all. Airport open meeting laws require you to provide just back to her and not to all the recipients. Having said that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Go ahead.
I apologize. It is actually on the September 28th agenda item. They are introducing, it's item 18-1768, which means if you go to the city website, you'll be able to click on that, and it should have a summary of all the finance recommendations attached to that item. And it's later in the meeting, but again, it is at the September 28th, or I'm sorry, September 25th meeting.
So it's item 18.
Yeah.
It's item 18-1768, which is the introduction of the ordinance, and then it would have a later hearing about a month later for adoption of the ordinance. And then again, if you go to the city website and click on that, it's kind of like blue highlighted. You should be able to drill into the attachments.
Yeah.
Could I ask that if the rates are not being held the same, if you send me an email so that I can
Yep.
plan to represent the board at that meeting.
And what we'll try and do is we'll go ahead and get in on that and maybe just send an email with that attachment out, because sometimes it's a lot easier to do that and email it out to everybody.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. Any other items? Mr. Z?
Just want to make sure that you're going to want us in attendance, board members in attendance for that meeting.
For the city council meeting?
Yeah.
We'll send an email through Crystal
Okay.
to everyone if we need, rather than just having you show up. We'll keep you informed. I'll send Crystal an email and she can forward it to everybody else. So with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Without objection, this meeting is adjourned.